And welcome back from a abnormally long hiatus.
Bit of a hiatus.
This is a bit one.
It's pretty high.
We're back with Jonah, M. I'm Zach, and today we are joined with our friend Diana.
Hi.
We all...
Can we just say that part of the reason the reason for that, Murph hurt his shoulder snowboarding and was in serious medical condition for about 3 months. He's made a very good recovery. We're glad you're back with us, and we're glad you're in tip-top shape.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm glad to be back.
I'm really sorry that they had to amputate your arm, but, you know, it is what it is.
I got a new one. It's all right. It's a little handsy, but...
It actually took me a while to... I had to go back and, like... I had to ask you guys, like, what movie we were doing, because I forgot.
Yeah. Well, glad we're all back and we're going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I never forgot. I was actually always thinking about it, and I just didn't know when the right time after I recovered was to do it. And then it escaped me, and then you all kept reminding me about it, and then I just never thought, what is the best time to do this again? And we were going to do it last week, and then I had to stop because I went to yard work, and then
Life just happens.
Yeah.
It does, but, you know, we're going to get better.
Yeah.
And I'll be better
I will also be better.
for all of you.
Let's make a pact. Let's all pinky swear right now. We're pinky swearing, by the way.
We are.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see us, but... I mean,
Oh, wait, yeah. Fuck.
Cut that out.
So, the movie you picked, tell us about it.
So the movie I picked was a 1980s relative classic directed by Mr. Martin Scorcese called The King of Comedy. Not to be confused with The Comedian, also starring Robert De Niro.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. I watched The Comedian for about an hour and 12 minutes. I watched The Comedian, and I watched it Friday. And I actually told Deming to watch The Comedian because I thought I got it mixed up. And I started watching it Friday, and I watched what felt like, oh my God, this is like a long-ass movie. And I must be like at least hour and 40 minutes in. No, not even hour and 30, hour and 12 minutes. I had to stop, and I was like, I'll finish the rest of it tomorrow. No, what was it, Friday? No, I think I tried watching it Thursday. I came into work Friday. I asked Jonah, hey, the movie, The Comedian, like, did you watch it? And Jonah said, Comedian? Wait, what did you say?
I'm like, no. So you asked me, like, did you watch The Comedian? Like, no, I didn't. I watched The King of Comedy, but I know what movie you're talking about because I did the same. I made the same mistake. I looked up The Comedian on Internet Movie Database just to see if Robert De Niro was in the same movie. I watched the trailer. Woof.
I think it's funny how I inadvertently got you both to almost completely watch a movie of a similar name and somehow coincidentally having the same lead character, like lead actor.
And so the movie was not available for free on streaming anywhere. So I'm like, okay, I'll rent it. And I went on Amazon and I'm like, oh, the rental's $3.99, but to purchase it is $6.99. I might as well buy it. So I bought The Comedian, and I now have it forever.
I guess I owe you $6.99 plus tax.
It's a tax write-off.
It's
so
really not your fault.
That can be.
We could put that.
That can be one of the 3 things you bring on like a deserted island.
Oh my God.
that way you're pushed to end it quicker.
It'll drive me to insanity.
He saved me. I was mere minutes from doing the exact same thing.
No, don't do it.
I literally had it queued up
Yeah.
on Amazon, and he said, "Did you watch it?" And I was like, "Oh God, I shouldn't even respond because I've been so bad. I haven't watched it yet." And it's like the day before, and I was like, "No, I've texted him. I'm about to," and he said, "Well, don't."
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I'm glad you're here because I've been wanting to have you on, and I didn't know you were coming. But This is great. I was like, oh, Deming coming?
It was
great
me.
news.
I made it happen.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm glad.
You're welcome.
I like having
Director,
a fourth
producer, casting director.
person. You want to be a star, don't you?
Oh my God.
I did put on my shorter shorts. So.
No, this is a very professional environment.
As professional as
Let's professionally describe the story.
The actual
absolutely.
of the actual movie we watched.
Yes.
Yes.
It's good to start with segues,
Go
I'd say.
ahead.
All right, so this movie takes place in a little city known as New York.
Hmm.
I've heard of it.
I've never been there before, never heard of it until I saw the movie, but it's starring a character called Rupert Pupkin or Puffin. As if you see the movie, you'd understand. That's why everyone's kind of laughing at that joke. Rupert Pupkin is a wannabe comedian. He wants to be the next big thing, and he'll do anything it takes to get to that position. Even if it means illegal hijinks. I guess it's the wrong word to
Well,
use.
the main thing
Illegal
is that
methods.
he's cutting corners.
Yes.
He doesn't want to do the circuit or he wants to go right to the top.
Yes. You know, as a lot of people in the movie say, once you get work, then we'll talk. Once you prove yourself in many ways, then we'll talk. Build up your audience, and then we'll talk. But he won't take no for an answer. He's willing to wait day after day, minute after minute, what have you, to get to where he wants to be without having to do the work.
You know what's interesting about this movie? The synopsis reads that basically the story is about a guy who kidnaps a talk show host, right? But the kidnapping doesn't happen till way later.
Mm.
There's a lot of like build up and like
Mhm.
character development happening before the main thing that the synopsis seems to care about. I thought that was interesting. I think it makes this movie less of a like thriller type and more of a character study type of movie.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did want to bring up was pacing, and how expertly it was textured. It's almost like you're there witnessing all of the food being prepared, the slow boil, the
Yeah.
pasta soaking water, and then when the kidnapping happens, that's the meal, but it only takes that little bit to actually eat it.
You know what I love about that the pacing, like the time it takes between he got rebuffed and now we're kidnapping. It's an instant. Like
Mm.
I don't know if you guys remember, but he gets rebuffed in the mansion
Yes.
and he gets kicked out. The very next scene, he's in the car with Masha and they have outfits on.
Mhm.
And like the very next, there's no like planning. There's no like I'm gonna get my revenge. There's no like hooking up with Masha and like coming up with this scheme. No, we're in it. It's happening. It's already like it is underway. I do love that pacing part, and I love how it picks up so quickly when it needs to. But everything before is like really like a lot of buildup, a lot of like showing you the details of this guy's life and the details of this guy's delusions, which I thought was cool.
I also think that he's always been scheming.
Oh, you think so?
I think there's been multiple schemes, and I think this is just the next scheme.
You're right. You're right, because he did talk about how he talked about with Masha, like a lot of the stuff, like him and Masha when they talk. There's a lot of history between them,
Mhm.
a lot of like
Mhm.
crazy fan history, and a lot of shit that they did to get close to him and whatnot. That is true. Okay, I didn't realize that till you just now said it.
Like he's been building up for a long time to get to that position or to get to that part of his life and then take the next step afterwards.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is an interesting point because I didn't think about it until now. But he says he was in communications, but it never shows him doing any work. But he's always wearing a nice suit, but it never shows him like having money for a suit. So that makes sense, the scheming thing. Like every single piece of his character is a character.
Mm.
It's all false.
I want to ask you guys something. Do you think his mom is real?
That's okay. So something else that I thought was very interesting and well done
Yeah.
and it pairs a lot with the pacing. One more thing I want to say about the pacing is that the pacing was almost like inaudible music, and I knew it was going to be like that in the very few first scenes when Masha's in the limo and she has her hands against the window and it
Mhm.
freeze frames
Yeah.
for a freaking long
know.
time.
I'm
And,
really glad
and
you said
Scorsese is holding you there,
Yeah.
not letting you move on, and then it's like a rapid fire, and then he slows. So it's very much like that. And then in another layer of that, you are taught early on not to trust whether or not what you're seeing is actually happening.
that. Yeah.
So there's some argument you could make that, in theory, maybe none of it actually happened. The only thing that I could tell that's discernible from reality versus his fantasy was his fantasies in the beginning anyway
Yeah.
always went according to plan. Everything was congenial and nice.
Okay.
But even in the end, when he gets arrested and everything,
Yeah.
because that ends up working out for him. Because remember, Jerry in the beginning, he says, "Does it always work out like this, or does it always work out for you?" And he says, "Yeah, it does."
Hmm.
So even though in the audience's perspective, you think, "Oh man, he got arrested. It didn't work,"
Yeah.
but in the finale of that fantasy, it played to his favor. So we don't
Yes.
even know if any of that happened.
That's
So to that point, was the mom even there? Don't know. We never saw her.
Yeah, it's true.
that's where I come into the idea, because in his monologue, right?
Yeah.
He's essentially making a comedy of his own despair,
Yes.
of his own life. Well, and then I think about it, that's what I feel is what a lot of comedians do anyway.
Yeah.
And make their issues from their past their
Like part of their
part of their act,
their routine,
their
yeah.
routine. And then he mentions, right? Well, thank God my mom's been she's been out of the picture for some like 6 years, I believe he said, or 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, wait a second, everything else seems like he's being really honest about, considering we know his character.
Yeah.
They don't know because he's putting on an act. They think at least they think. And then maybe you're right. Maybe is his mom really real? Because even if Scorsese wouldn't be like have a character yelling from the
Upstairs or whatever.
you'd see her. They would emphasize that if it meant something.
You know what else? So this is another thing that I appreciate about masterful filmmakers is that I would say 80% of a character's story you never really know. You only get a glimpse. In so many movies, you get the character, it's a vanilla person, and they explain everything. So something else, if you look at his manic desire to succeed and be a big shot, not just be successful, but be celebrated, could come from abandonment issues or something along the lines of just never being good enough. So we never see the mom, but the mom, when she's present, is always an antagonist.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder, like, is she the antagonist pushing him to do all of these things? And is that part of it? So I would,
like an imaginary antagonist in his head?
Yeah.
Or he was never good enough, or
Mhm.
Mm.
And then pushing him, like being the adverse character in his life. Right, obviously antagonist.
Well, in a way, I think it's
when
presented as an antagonist. But if you listen to how he talked about his father too, being that he left, maybe it was, I need to be the best for mom because the real villain, dad, abandoned us, and so that could have played into that some. So maybe the mother isn't necessarily the evil antagonist, but the pressure that he puts on himself.
Which makes a lot of sense. It does. Picking things apart is obviously what we like to do. And it's actually these new things that you guys notice. There's some things in movies that I notice that you guys hint at and don't think about too much, and then I'll say it. And
There's only
it
so
opens
much
up.
you could pick up on one viewing.
Yeah.
Or even two, and there's only so much you could pick up from, excuse me, your own perspective. So when you have different sets of eyes looking at the same thing, you could see a clearer picture.
But I did realize, man, have that slight thought in my head if his mother was real, considering when I saw when I heard the monologue, watched the monologue,
Yeah.
I was thinking, wait a second, was that all real? And I was thinking, as a matter of fact, when I was watching that scene where she's yelling at him from downstairs when he's recording,
Yeah.
and she says, "Turn it down, people are trying to sleep," and then he's like, all right, and then skip the next scene. I thought why would anybody?
That
would any
seems real.
Respectful. It seems real, but why
That
would
seems real.
exactly? But like, I also think
But
why would they do that? That's definitely on this tier level of directing. They would just have somebody yelling from the staircase, never seeing the character, but making such a big deal of the movie.
part of the reason why I asked about the mom was like you mentioned his outfits. So like he's able to acquire funds to get these suits. Obviously.
They could have been his dad's though.
That's true.
It could have been his dad's or
They're kind of ill. But
Stolen.
then
stolen. They could have come from money from his mom's
from-
passing.
Is Masha? Does she have money? She looks like she has money.
Masha's family has money.
So he got it,
Yes.
and they've been working together to get hot to the top. She's probably funding him.
That might
Could be.
possibly.
On the face of it, it seems like the most.
I really like
viable
their
reason.
relationship, by the way.
Yeah,
I
it's-
think
Yeah,
it's really
super-
funny.
Super funny, super toxic.
She's a comedian, isn't she? She's a comedian singer in real life.
The actress?
Yeah, I forgot her name.
I don't know her name. She's really good though.
She is very good.
Um,
She's really good in all the things. The most recent
Singing
thing
was-
I've seen her in was Pose. She was a nurse
Oh,
in
really?
that HBO show. Yeah.
No, yeah, no, I liked her. I liked their banter. Remember when he's I forgot it was. They're on the street and she catches up with them and they're both she's just yelling at him in the street and they're fighting and arguing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I don't want to make a big scene in front of everybody. I'm out of here. I don't want to look at you anymore.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like just laughing at her and she starts, the New York thing, just I don't give a fuck what you're looking at.
Speaking of women in this movie, what did you guys think of Rita and like her role? And
So that was another thing that from their first interaction, was really trying to pick up on and discern what the hell was happening. Because, like we said, when a scene goes really well for him, it seems like it's not real.
Yep.
He goes into this bar. She almost, not instantly, but almost instantly recognizes him without prompting, which seems like it wouldn't be true. And then agrees to go out on a date with him when she's clearly at work, like at a bar in New York. And then they go to a restaurant. Didn't look like she had the early shift. The bar was almost empty.
Mm.
So that seemed very false.
Yeah.
But then another interesting point that they made in direction is that when they went to the mansion, her hair was totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, at first I thought, okay, it could be wigs.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe she just naturally wears wigs. But then in the end, when he's getting detained, her hair looked very real and very long. So I think that that's another interesting thing, that in these three instances, she has completely different hairstyles that she's shown. And I'm wondering if that's meant to cue us in on something.
that didn't even register for me. I just assumed she wore wigs. Yeah.
Because that whole scene in the bar and the day he kidnapped him,
Yeah.
it was all essentially a day later.
The whole date thing though, it seems super far-fetched. It seems like in his head. However, what leads me to believe that maybe it's true is, they meet Jerry at his mansion and will meet. They show up.
They show up early.
Well, that, and then if you use the criteria of real versus imaginary, that
Yeah.
she didn't respond the way that he wanted to. Because when he's having the imaginary conversations with Jerry,
Yeah.
Jerry says everything that he wants to hear.
Mm.
But when he's having that date, it's obviously not.
I still think the date is real because the way that Rita responds to a lot of the things that he says seems real, and she's not entirely sold on him either. But and honestly, he's not entirely sold on her either, because she asks him, "Do you want to come up for coffee? Netflix and chill? Anybody?"
Mm.
And he says no. He doesn't go up to her room. And I'm like, is this guy stupid? Like, what's going on here? Yeah, he turns down going up to her room. So like I don't know what's going on there. Do you guys, is there some explanation that
So
you guys
Might
might
be
have?
an incel.
Yeah.
No, but wouldn't the incel want to like bone? Like, isn't that
I think to really understand that, and if I watch it again and I would look for it, but I definitely didn't have the foresight to look for it.
Yeah.
Because I would have to know what the immediate scene after that was.
I don't exactly remember.
Right, neither do I, because that would tell us if he had some motivation where he had to go do something. Because that was another thing about him, is that he was very methodical and determined.
He's when it comes to like the Jerry stuff.
Mhm. That's another thing that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
How interesting it was. So Jerry Lewis is one of my all-time favorite comedic actors.
Mhm.
His movies are brilliant. Robert De Niro, obviously, no one's going to argue the stature that he carries as an actor. So you get two powerhouses in their own houses
Yes.
and flip their roles. Where Jerry Lewis now, although he's the comedian in the movie, plays straight the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
plays dramatic the whole time. And De Niro, while not overtly funny, his mania and goofiness
Yes.
is more funny. And to have those two playing against each other, it's like two flavors you wouldn't
I
think
thi-
would go well together,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and it's beautiful.
They're really good together. But I think what tends to happen in these kinds of movies is the more dynamic role tends to get more attention, although the more quiet role might also be doing a lot of heavy lifting. And I think Jerry, like, just the way he holds his silence and the way he like has dagger eyes towards like Masha and
yeah.
like he's
When he's-
really good at like, I fucking hate you guys and I want you guys to leave. And like the way he was looking at Masha, like I'm as soon as you I'm gonna fucking kill, and he tries to kill her, and
Yeah.
he's like
shooting her and keeps a straight face, right, the
Yeah.
entire time.
He's really good in this.
Mhm.
And I don't know, did he get did he get attention like acting? Like, was the spotlight on him when this movie came out? I feel like the spotlight's
So-
mostly on
so
Robert De Niro.
Jerry Lewis was most active in the 60s.
Mm.
Like the quote unquote original, not the original, but his remake of his Nutty Professor came out in 63, I want to say.
Mm.
So that's when he was really, really big.
Okay, definitely before my time.
Yeah, this
Jerry
is-
Lewis
this
about
is old Jerry
57
Lewis.
years old in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he's about 17 years older than De Niro, and De Niro's 39 in this flick.
Okay.
He was 39 in this flick, and yeah, so he had a big age gap. So I mean, I guess at this point he's like, I'm just gonna do movies and do what I do when I have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess it's just the age gap thing. Maybe they wanted to focus
Like
on
Robert De Niro's the new hotness, and like focus on that. Is that
I
what
mean,
you're saying?
Yeah, at this point, right? Because at this point Robert De Niro
What
has
year is this? 80 what?
82.
82.
So it's about
82.
5 years
Okay.
since. No, it's been about 7 years since Raging Bull, I believe.
Definitely
Ra-
after Raging Bull. Yep.
Because Raging Bull 75.
That's a 70s movie. I know that.
Raging Bull 75, and then Taxi Driver
Oh,
77.
this is after Taxi Driver 2.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
this movie's so similar to Taxi Driver.
Yeah,
Like
Mhm.
it's so similar.
They've-
I know that you mentioned that that Joker was somewhat inspired by this movie,
absolutely was.
and after watching it, I'm like, it's the same movie.
It's a ripoff.
It's the same
honestly.
movie. It's
Yeah.
Well, especially you see at the end, at the end where he's wearing
Yeah.
the red suit, and the commentator, what do you call it, the narrator of the thing kept
the announcer
saying,
guy.
Everyone, let's hear for him, and they
Yeah.
kept going. Everyone, let's hear for
Yeah.
Rupert Pupkin.
Rupert
Everyone-
Pupkin,
and they
like
kept
different
saying-
iterations of like introducing
of the
Rupert
s-
Pupkin,
but of the same one.
and it's
Yeah.
super surreal. It's like kind of creepy.
you know,
and
that's
it's
sort of thing that's in his head.
Oh,
Oh, 100%.
Delusions of grandeur.
yeah.
That was the one that they
Gave it
did
away.
not hide it at all.
No,
Until the very end. Like you kind of seem like he's really done it. And then
Yeah.
just when they start repeating his name over and over again, you're like, oh, okay, he's
You-
nuts.
you
know
see
what
at the
I-
end of the Joker.
What I didn't appreciate is like he left. I think him getting arrested at Rita's bar, I think that was real.
Mhm.
That I feel like whatever Rita's in is real, because she seems like a more real person. She's like a quote unquote, she calls herself a working girl, but she seems to have a better handle on reality and the way that she picks up on Jerry Langford's like demeanor at the mansion. She realizes, oh, he doesn't want us here. We should leave. I feel like for those reasons, whatever scenes that she is in, it's a real scene, and I think it's very telling that although uh uh Richard fucking fuck, what's his first name? Rupert Pumpkin
Pumpkin.
that guy. Even though Robert De Niro tells Rita, "I won't forget you when I'm big," in the later scene when he does get big, Rita's nowhere to be seen. She's not in this fantasy.
Hmm.
She's not in it, which leads me to believe that this isn't real because Rita's not part of it.
Well, I think that's. I mean, that true, 100% true.
Mm.
There were more real scenes that Rita wasn't in, but Rita is an excellent vehicle for determining
Like
that
an indicator.
because,
Yeah.
like I said before, she never says what he wants her to
Mm.
say.
Yeah.
Like when he's trying to convince her to not leave the mansion.
She's
and,
she's Rupert spinning top in Inception.
Yeah.
Yes, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe also at the end, even though he says he'll never forget her,
Yeah.
maybe she just doesn't want to be part of it.
Oh, that too.
Well, yeah, but regardless.
What do you think her response? I couldn't really gauge her response to being shown.
I think
him
she
on the show.
she probably never actually thought it would ever be real.
Honestly,
She was just really shocked.
She's like, "Is this a deep fake?"
Well, I think mild shock. I think if you look at the story from her perspective, okay, somebody I knew, imagine this happened to you, somebody I knew from high school, like a long time ago, like at least 10 years ago, someone random from my high school came up, they're like, hey, you remember me? And I was like, oh, yeah, I think we had biology, right? He's like, yeah, you want to go get some food? And then mere days later, you've been taken to a mansion, then kicked out of a mansion, and then he disappears, does some shit, and then says, hey, I'm on TV, and then he gets arrested by the FBI. I think you're just going to sit back and be like, what the fuck? And then just go about your day.
What a ride.
Like it's not even an event that happened to her in her mind, I think. It's just something she's going to like call her mom about, and you're like, you would not believe the week I've had.
That's a really
Sit down for
interesting
this
take. I think that those are accurate statements.
And I think that's reflected too, just in general, in how invested or not invested she even is in him.
Mm.
You know, and that's indicated in the first date, in the mansion scene. That was, and the hair kind of reflects this. It was more of a frivolous or freewheeling. It was like a weekend thing. It's like, yeah, kind of know this guy. He says we're gonna go to this place. Sure. I'll
when
do
she
it.
got there, though, when they were there, she was all about it. She wanted to check out the mansion. She wanted to dance. She was happy.
Well, yeah, but again, look at it from her perspective. Like, a
Yeah.
friend of mine has taken me to this awesome place because he knows people, and she has
Yeah.
at that point no indication that he's lying.
Right.
You know, and then but look
Kinda
at
makes
how
the whole thing sad.
it is.
I feel bad for her. Yeah.
You can have me arrested because there's no way of proving that I should be here right now. I had a question. Oh, I have something to say, and then a question after that.
Yes.
So do you think at the end he always planned that he knew he was going to get arrested? Do you think he knew that he would martyr himself essentially?
So?
No.
And you
Oh,
really
really?
don't think that
don't
this
think so.
entire time he knew it would work out in his favor? He would never get arrested.
No, because I don't think that he would have pushed so hard to get him to listen to the tape.
Oh, are you saying from the beginning, or
Yes.
from the beginning of the kidnapping?
The beginning
plot?
of the kidnapping.
Beginning of the kidnapping plot,
Yes.
he knew.
That's what I was
Yes.
saying.
Oh, I
He
thought you
knew.
I thought you were saying from the beginning.
No. But obviously,
When you
he
say beginning and you mean the middle, say that.
oh, sorry, the beginning of the kidnapping.
Yeah.
Do you also know that he probably planned on being kidnapped?
Oh,
Or,
definitely.
being arrested after the kidnapping.
I didn't know it at the time, but as the scene started to play out and you realize this guy's thought of everything, like
right when the police are saying like where's he at? Like I want to be on. I want to make sure it's put through. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
we're not getting anything. Well, then he's dead.
Yeah.
Then he's dead because he knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to see it all go go through.
Well, another telltale sign for me that he knew he was going to get arrested is he didn't care what happened.
Yeah.
He had
Oh,
already
yeah.
imagined the worst
Yeah,
things
that's
that the
true.
FBI is going to take him away. Because if I'm in that situation and I'm trying to negotiate, I'm not just going to go, yeah, he's dead. Yeah, I fucking killed him. 2 in the brain. You know what I mean? It's like Advil. No, like
It's
I feel-
immediately over for him.
Yeah, I feel like one, because he was so calculated and he was so careful, he had thought of everything, but also that he just didn't care what happened.
But then
Okay.
As long as he got that on there, and I feel like he knew, and especially with how
That makes sense.
his demeanor when they went to the bar,
Yeah.
he knew the whole time.
I think if this happened to Jimmy Fallon, there wouldn't be much of a reaction. I think they probably would have just left him be.
Well, the executive producers would be like, "What's our insurance policy on what's our life insurance on this guy?"
we're just gonna clone him. It's fine. We can do
We
that.
got to bring back
we
Letterman.
could cash that in, right?
If he planned it, if he knew, which I agree, he definitely knew.
Yeah.
Why would he go? Why would he disguise himself? Why would he put glasses on his eyes to hide where he's at? And why? And when he knew he was going to tape him up anyways, where he wouldn't go anywhere, unless he really did that to gain trust first and see where he went.
Ooh, okay, hang on.
What do you mean by that?
Which steps do you think he took to gain the trust? Because there's a couple different things. Why did he have a disguise?
You're like, what if he knew? Like, I intend to get arrested regardless.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tape him up, or he's not gonna go anywhere anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he need to disguise himself?
Well,
did he need
Because
to
they
cover his
kidnapped him in
eyes?
broad daylight.
yeah.
If
yeah.
someone saw and they were like, wow, I just saw that really famous person get kidnapped by these 2 people who I've seen follow him around for weeks.
Yeah.
If anybody even remotely identified him, and he's a very flamboyant character, people would, and he says his name 3 billion times the first time you meet him.
Jared, in the car here. Got a gun to your head, Jared.
So I think that he did that because he needed time to get him to call the studio, to get all the things in motion, to
Yeah.
make those things happen. He couldn't show his hand yet.
There definitely was purpose in wearing those outfits when they first kidnapped.
And
do
covering
appreciate
his
them.
eyes.
I do appreciate them still wearing the
Yeah,
sunglasses
yes.
after kidnapping.
That was my next thing I was gonna say. Like, all right, well, you got him where you need him.
Yeah.
Take the ridiculous stuff off.
Nah, you made
No,
the
I
scene-
bought him. I'm gonna wear him.
Agreed. Yeah.
Oh God, I love how they're just chatting with him while holding the gun and like.
How do I know I can trust? Like, is my word not enough? Sorry, Jerry.
That angle, the top down
Yeah,
shot.
yes.
I
It's-
love that.
It
That
shows
was
his
great.
goofiness even more. That he's just gonna go in circles, even though obviously, how else would he do it?
And the amount of tape
Yeah.
was ludicrous.
He looked like a turtle.
He looked like a I don't even know. He looked like somebody's fucking paper mache bullshit project in 2nd grade where they tried to make
Yes.
a turtle and it looked like a turd
Turtle.
with Jerry Lewis's head,
Oh man,
just
That's
like a
not-
Barbie head on top.
That sounds like modern art.
And
Um,
some would say.
I love the get together of the FBI and the producers, like where they're discussing like, oh, how do we figure this crisis out?
Mm-hmm.
And that one lawyer guy is like,
Mhm.
these guys are idiots.
I'm suing.
Kid-
Who are you suing?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm suing you. I'm the guy who sues people.
We got to get this on the air tonight.
Speaking of like the musical nature of, I feel Scorsese's direction is very much like conducting. That was the little like quartet in the center of this symphony of a little quartet going on because there was no other purpose. Like it didn't propel the plot that much.
Yeah.
It really just introduced the idea that there was FBI and that they were going to go along with the plan, which you could have done 2 minutes. You should have been like, we're the FBI. Do it. But instead, you have this quartet of all these other people who also don't even come back. So it's just this little poppy sort of interlude to, one, give you a different pace, and then also to kind of
Just
give you-
entertain the fuck out of you.
Yeah,
Like,
give you a little bit of
it's so much
energy, a
fun.
little bit of wildness, to show you the chaos of the situation.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, everything's a very slow build. Then kidnap, and then you have like the pot's boiling, and this is the chaos.
Yeah.
What about when he's sitting there? He's like, I need to get made up right now. Yo, you need makeup? All right, talk to my friend. He'll get you red. Like he'll get you, make you like blush or something like that. It's like, oh yeah, I'll make you red. He's like, oh, that's funny. Really need to get made up right now. I need that makeup. Because like one of the other cops like essentially gonna beat the shit out of him.
the
The
the writer guy. I wasn't sure. Excuse me. I wasn't sure what was going on with that. Because he showed up with his wife and he was complaining to the bouncer guy, to try to let him in. I'm like, we're spending a lot of time with this guy. What's going on with this?
You-
And then I realized, oh, is he like?
working with him.
I don't think he was working with
I
him.
think he's just as shifty though.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's a lot of shifty characters around the outside trying to get in, because like that could be their chance to get in with
Okay.
other writers or
You
other.
don't think he was a legitimate guy on the
So
who's to be featured?
I think so, but I think to your point, one of the things that this movie is showing is how they're all kind of the same person.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Jerry's character, although he's the victim, he does shady shit all the time. He kind of admits to it, like this is the business, this and the other.
Mhm.
And you're meant to think that De Niro's character is like, oh my god, you're fucking insane. What are you doing? But it's really not that far from what everyone else has done. So I feel like
Okay.
the purpose there was twofold. One, to show the reality of if they decide to put him on the air, they're gonna have to take somebody else off.
Mm.
Then, well, I said three purposes. So one, they're showing us that that's how they did it. Two, is to give us more of that chaos and to add a little bit more to this pot, building up to another build up that I wanted to talk about. And then also to show that this guy's an author and he comes in as always like a respectable guy, but these respectable people will turn to snakes pretty quick. And to show that everyone in the industry, doesn't matter what you're doing, everyone's trying to get big, and they're going to do what it takes. But the other thing that I could not stand, in a good way,
Okay.
I was getting edged the whole time. I wanted to hear his fucking stand-up.
Oh,
yeah.
I was like, okay, he's on stage, let's go.
Very-
And then they cut away from it as soon as he says, let me introduce myself. And I'm like, I thought for a minute that they were never going to show it. And I said, I
Yeah.
swear to God, if they
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
show it, and it's one of those things like, you never know, I was going to be livid.
What you think? You don't
What
see
did
it,
you
and then he gets
think?
arrested and end the movie.
When you finally saw it, what verdict?
So one,
Yeah.
I thought, wow, it's really funny and really good. But that doesn't make sense because they would have put him on. I would not be surprised, or in my opinion, I feel like it didn't actually go that well.
Yeah.
That we are seeing his
Oh.
version of it
I see.
That's what I was thinking too.
I agree.
because it was perfect. The audience laughed at exactly all the right times. They were whistling and hooping and hollering in a way that didn't quite seem natural. And then the thing that really sold me on this is when he was like, "Oh, my dad left." The whole audience, no, it was so like laugh tracky.
Do you think? I don't think so. I think
He killed it.
when you have an audience in a talk show, those people in the audience are primed to laugh.
Well, yeah,
at
they're
whatever,
prompted. Yeah,
and maybe not prompt, but okay, sure, prompted. But like these people they're supposed to be an easy crowd.
yeah.
Like, so I think the fact that he got the laughs, I don't think that takes away from the reality of the situation. I don't think so. I think, me personally, watching, it's a very mid performance. And maybe in the 80s, the hamminess.
That's what I was going to point out is because I was comparing it to comics of the 80s,
Mhm.
Yeah.
not comics now. Like that style, like even if you go, like like George Carlin, I would say is probably considered a fantastic comedian.
Mhm.
But if you go back to his early talk show stuff, which I feel like they were trying to emulate with the big shoulder suits and then the armpit, thing, it's very much like that Ed Sullivan style suit.
All right.
Those George Carlin things, it was very hammy. It was a lot of like one-liners or
Yeah.
weird situational stuff that was sort of campy
Mhm.
in that style.
for that reason, or like I guess part of that kind of led me to believe that this is probably real. The audience, they're just responding like a normal '80s audience, and maybe his act is all right, but maybe not good enough to go through all the filters of Jerry's of like Jerry himself, go through the filter of his assistants, of all the people that work under him, who filter out like all the mid stuff, and they only want like the really really good stuff. Um, I don't know. I think it might have been real.
I think we should make a distinction though too. That scene specifically, I don't think it was. If it wasn't real,
Okay.
I don't think it was completely not real. I think it was like 80-90% real,
Yeah.
and then you just kind of got his little glow added to it. That it was maybe his perception of how well he did.
Another part of the reason why I tend to think I would lean more towards the idea that it's real is that the cops, like the feds, as well as Rita, they watched the whole thing on the TV, and they all watched it. They all watched the same thing, and the cop says he didn't like it
Mm-hmm.
because he asked him what his opinion was.
I think
Um,
the writer, whoever wrote that, should be thrown in jail with you. Well, I wrote it, and I thought
Yeah.
it was pretty good.
Well, I don't know. I guess it could go either way.
Well, I think that was a very direct choice. I think they did those things
yeah.
to make it ambiguous.
I
So,
think it could
I
be
do
his
appreciate
perception of his act, like you said. It might be just the whole delusions of grandeur. Man, I'm doing a fucking good job up here.
I'm nailing.
I'm nailing it. I'm
oh,
killing it right now.
This whole thing was
Another theme, a phrase that kept getting repeated
Yeah.
is, "You were right, I was wrong." It
Mm.
happens
Very
a
loose.
bunch of times, and I
Okay.
think one of the reasons that I think, like I said, maybe not entirely fake, but I think a little puffed up, is because his mania has to finish with, "I was right, they were wrong."
like the
Yeah.
wedding, like the wedding. The thing about the wedding when he thought about with his teacher
Yep.
saying he wouldn't amount to anything,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and marrying Rita, and it was like I want everyone to know in front of the world that we were wrong and you were right. I want everyone to know that. Yeah, actually, he does say that twice because then Jerry Lewis's character
Mhm.
says the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He says that to him. Yeah.
And I feel like there might have been a third instance. There was definitely enough times that it was said that I, in my first viewing, was like,
It's a significant
Huh.
thing.
and I think that was a big part of his personality.
That whole idea of like, oh, there are all these grievances against me,
Mm-hmm.
and like the world is unjust because none of it is getting addressed. I think this might be the I can't think of an early movie. Okay, well maybe Taxi Driver, but like this is one of the earliest incels of movie history. Like, I mean the other one I think of is Joker.
I mean, as in like blaming the world for everything that goes wrong.
Yeah, and not like putting in the work yourself to like actually make yourself a better person, actually make yourself professionally more attractive. Yeah.
I mean, perhaps in film, but there's definitely like Greek tragedies that have that character trait.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, they filmed
not-
those.
I'm
But
not
I wouldn't count those because they were.
Not entirely familiar with the stuff.
But I think what is interesting is, so 82.
Yeah.
In terms of, big box office pictures, I do think that this is one of the earlier films to start exploring the madness of it. Like, you have characters in like Greek tragedies who are like, the world is against me and I just can't get lucky. And then as the audience, you're like, you're an idiot. But here, it's like you're digging into his insanity.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised, because a lot of these behaviors are sometimes genetic, sometimes learned. The way he talked about his dad always drinking at a different bar than his mom. His dad was probably a lot like this. and he
Okay.
probably saw his dad doing the same thing, like couldn't catch a break. If only they would listen to me. If only they gave me one chance. It's not that hard. Give me one chance. I'll be
Yeah.
right and you'll be wrong.
I can't think of another movie, or maybe just not right now off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Another movie where every scene is up for interpretation. Where like we talked about, we don't know if it's reality. We don't know if it's in his head.
I'm
And
sure there are
we
others.
can-
I just couldn't.
I'm sure someone would bring up Inception
but
as,
that's
as
known.
an example of that.
But it's known. The movie's about the non-reality. It's literally the premise of it.
The
Yeah,
Machinist.
it's addressed.
Oh, yeah, The Machinist.
Oh yeah,
Machinist, okay,
that's a good one.
yeah. But I understand Inception. But then again, Inception, that's the whole purpose of the movie, to
Yeah.
know that it's not reality. But this one is you really don't know if all of it is, or
I do
if
think
all of it
there
isn't.
are things that actually happen. I do think there are things in this movie that are indisputably real.
But it still feels like it's up for interpretation.
I think everything that happens in Jerry Lewis's office, in the reception area, I think everything that happens there is incredibly real.
yes.
I agree.
And
because,
that-
again, it doesn't go his way because
Yeah.
anytime it's his fantasy, he controls the situation.
Yep. They
You-
spend a lot of time. We keep going back to that reception waiting area.
Did that scene where he's looking at the ceiling for about like 10 seconds? He's looking up,
I didn't understand that at all.
and I thought the movie had stopped for a second,
Well,
and then I saw him move, and then
yeah.
says, "Is that cork?" So it's really good for sound. And like,
so I think that you have to recognize the purpose behind certain scenes, and I do feel that scene, its only purpose was to stop the pace. I think it was to give you kind of
catch up.
like a separation of mentality.
I think that, and also this might be his first time ever getting this far into Jerry Lewis's workplace
Mm-hmm.
in the reception room. So he's just taking it all in, looking at everything, and
This could be mine one day.
Yeah.
This could be all me.
yeah,
This will be mine.
It also demonstrates like he has like a childlike appreciation for the TV business, but also an overt like naivety. Like he doesn't like it's cork in a ceiling. Like sure, fundamentally cork is good for sound, but it's a ceiling tile. Like
Yeah.
it's not actually going to.
Childlike appreciation, but also childlike expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's never actually worked in that in the business ever,
Mm-hmm.
or feels like he should say something, or feels like he does know something or two
Mhm.
about it. So he's gonna pretend and play the part
Mm-hmm.
until he can make it.
So I read the wiki synopsis of this, and I read like some of the critic responses or whatever. And one of the critics, she presented the idea that comparing this movie and Taxi Driver, Robert De Niro's character in this movie is actually way more dangerous than Travis in Taxi Driver. And the reason that he's way more dangerous in this movie is because in this movie, he's able to gather more sympathy from the viewer. But in Taxi Driver, like he commits multiple acts of violence, which immediately distances his character from a sympathy point of view for a viewer. So for that reason, the viewers who watch Robert De Niro's character in this movie, they have more compassion for him. The problem is Robert De Niro's character here and Taxi Driver are the same guy. So Robert Puffkin. I keep saying Robert.
Rupert
Rupert.
Pup-
Rupert Puffkin.
Pupkin.
pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
Puffin.
Puffin.
These are all canon names, by the way.
all
So you're not
correct.
wrong. Then again, how do we know that's his real last
That's
name?
not even his. That could, who knows? That's could not.
Is that your real
that
name?
even
It
his
is
real
my
name?
real name.
Yeah. What am I
Sure.
saying? Well, what do you guys think of that?
I think that it's interesting to talk about him being more dangerous. because in my mind, the thing that makes him more dangerous to me is that he has no limit to what he would do and a very poorly defined breaking point.
Yes, he accomplishes exactly what he wants to do. And in King of Comedy, what he wanted to do was, it's not entirely violent. He didn't use a real gun. He kidnapped, but he fully, once he hatched the plan, he fully intended, I'm gonna get arrested. He accepted that. His plan inherently is less violent than Robert De Niro's plan in Taxi Driver. Obviously, in that movie, he was trying to kill a politician. But he, as opposed to Taxi Driver, he doesn't go through with it. But in this movie, he follows through and then some. He accomplishes. So in terms of carrying out your delusional ideas, King of Comedy is far more effective.
Also, to an exacting degree that he did not show elsewhere in the movie. He seemed almost bumbling in a lot of ways. Like even like watching him fuck with the tape recorder, like he kind of was like messing it up a little bit, and then there's all these like chaotic things happening. But then when he hashed this plan, it was surgical.
Yes. Once the plot, the kidnapping plot, he just turned into a man of focus. He turned into John Wick, man of focus, and like he accomplished and executed to a very
Except for the cue cards.
Oh yeah, that was great.
That was
That's a
hilarious.
That's a blank one.
The way Jerry Lewis played that, it was amazing. Jerry Lewis is another actor. De Niro does this very well too, but at this point, Jerry Lewis had been in the business for a lot longer.
Yeah.
But Jerry Lewis is a master of making mundane gestures look natural. Like his irritation at the card seemed so just off the cuff.
And the way that he was like talking to his producer, like trying to describe what was going on, like during the small in between scenes. Yeah, those like little micro actions.
One
of acting.
To people who don't really like pay this much attention to films, the example that I use is there's a scene in The Office where Steve Carell's talking to the camera, and he adjusts his watch as just a very natural thing. His watch had fallen a little bit, and he adjusts it, and that tiny thing makes the character look so much more real. And you can apply that to things like an easy one to tell is like when someone's talking on the phone, they don't give you the right amount of pause that the other person's actually talking.
Okay.
But the other detail, and De Niro and Jerry are both perfect at this, is in their eyes, you can see them reacting to what the person's saying. And then when they're thinking of a response, their eyes will go up as they search for the response.
Ah. Okay.
See.
And that was very, very well done. And what's funny is you talked about not being able to pick up on much on your first viewing. All of those little details were phenomenal. In the first couple of scenes, one thing that was like egregious to me is that when he takes the hanky and he wraps his hand in because he's bleeding, he has it on his hand. Then it cuts a wider shot, no rag on his hand when he's doing this and he's gesturing. And then it cuts right back, rag on his hand.
Continuity.
Yeah.
Continuity. Super important. Although I did not pick up on that, so maybe not that important. Oh, yeah.
I've become more accustomed and have really honed a good part about new movies and understanding and seeing continuity errors more often than I used to. That one I didn't notice.
That one was just a random thing because the hanky was white, so when it came back to his hand, I was like, for some reason I felt like that when he was gesturing, I was like, oh, he took the hanky off. I guess it's not that bad. But then he had it back, and I was like, oh, what? But yeah, not a big deal.
There's a really cool. This is a little bit off topic. There's a really cool video by Thomas Flight. He's a YouTuber. He does like film stuff about what you're talking about. It's the video's title is "In Praise of Subtle Performances," and it talks about like those little things like that, like adjusting the watch or like a neck twitch when you're talking about something.
When he kept doing that with his bow tie.
Yeah.
Have you ever worn a bow tie?
No,
Like,
I
you
haven't.
can't help it. You're always like
I-
I always grab the side, you kind of wiggle it,
When-
and he kept doing that.
That had like a crackhead energy about it. The way he
Mhm.
kept fucking with it. And I didn't really. I've never worn a bow tie, but
Yeah, it's like that.
He always seemed to be doing it too when he was like snickering, like he was trying to hold back a smile, like a deviousness.
Mm.
How Family Guy makes fun of David Letterman.
Yeah.
Eh?
You said
Yeah.
there's a Family Guy thing about
Yeah,
this.
Family Guy made a reference to a scene in there, and I had no idea because this is the first time I've ever seen this movie.
Hmm.
But did you guys catch it?
No.
So, do you remember the Family Guy episode where Meg became obsessed and in love with Brian?
Yeah.
So she kidnaps him. She makes him a candlelit dinner. She's wearing a black dress. He's taped to the
Okay,
chair.
yeah.
And the thing that she says is, "We're gonna have fun, good old-fashioned American fun." As she kicks her dress away,
Oh.
it was exactly that scene.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I remember that.
I don't
too.
remember that, but
I always just thought like, "Oh, damn, she's really crazy." I had no idea that it was a reference.
That's cool.
I didn't. I actually, now that you say it, I do remember that episode.
Yeah.
Like over.
Well, as the scene was unfolding, I was like, I swear I've heard somebody say that before.
Is this is it just did you guys you've seen this before, right?
The King of Comedy.
King of Comedy? Have you seen it
This
before?
is my first
This is
time
my
seeing it. I've only
my first
seen it in
Okay.
in other clips from movie YouTube. That's
what
Watch Mojo brought me into it.
Why'd you pick this movie? How'd you learn about it?
From Watch Mojo.
Oh.
So
okay.
me again, big story, right? I got into really watching movies because I was poor and I had DVDs. And then when I got YouTube, I'm like, I go to Watch Mojo and then see what movies that have captivated audience for decades, and I want to see them. So, and this is one I hadn't seen or got myself to watch in a bit
Mhm.
or ever. And I saw it was free on Hulu at the time, and it wasn't now, but it's free on YouTube now. But
It was.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I watched it.
Yeah.
Dude, the ads.
Oh yeah, they stopped
The,
after a while.
the volume difference in the
It's
ads.
ludicrous.
You guys had to watch it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on Hulu.
Oh, what the fuck?
Last week it was on Hulu.
Oh, when I watched,
watched
it again
it- Yeah.
recent, like 2 days ago, it wasn't.
I watched it yesterday. It was not.
Well, get fucked, I guess.
I also, I pay for YouTube, so I didn't have any ads.
Oh, what the All right. Yeah, I had ads super loud. Volume difference. Did you see it on YouTube?
Yeah, but I watched it on the sound bar.
It was nuts. Like I was watching I was watching it in my room.
What,
Yeah.
the
He's watching in the
ads?
living room, and I just get like IMAX blown away every 20 minutes. And I'm like, what is he doing?
Yeah, we're watching Best in Show. I would watch it upstairs before the movie,
Yeah.
the projector, and I'll be like, I'm laying down on the couch, and then the first time it comes up, ear rape.
yeah. Oh,
And I keep
yeah.
turning it down before the ad because you see the ad coming up first.
There's,
And then you
don't
turn it
see-
down?
You don't see that for this
Yeah.
movie. It
I-
just ad.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I would mute it for the ad and unmute it.
On top
Oh.
of that, Best in Show, it was really rough because it looked like the film quality was filmed with
Oh,
by
yeah.
a toaster.
That's the other thing with that movie.
It was
Have you
supposed to be
seen
because
Best in
it was a
Show?
documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best in Show is a documentary. It's a mockumentary.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a mockumentary about dog shows.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cool.
It's fun. It's a
was-
fun
it was-
little movie.
It was.
Yeah.
I like I still we talked about it again already, but I just love the scene about the guy talking about all the different types of nuts. Right, he had different types of I think it was nuts.
Oh,
Yeah, it was he.
I'm trying to remember.
It was like he was driving his car, with the dogs in a big van, and he's talking about the different types of nuts.
That's the dude that directed the movie, and I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, anywho,
Anywho,
So I feel like we've covered everything we can.
I'm sure we could talk about more stuff. I can't really. Nothing's really coming to mind.
everything else is really subtle stuff
Mm.
that is more like the brilliance of it. And I think we hit all the major talking points.
Yeah.
I will say this is a movie that I would like to see again in maybe a couple of years.
Do think it was interesting. They used a similar technique that you've seen Willy Wonka, right? The original
Yeah,
one
yeah,
with
yeah.
Gene Wilder. You know the cane scene in the beginning?
Think so.
Did you
Yeah,
know that
where
was
you-
Gene Wilder's idea?
Yeah,
mhm.
No.
nobody ever seen him before.
So they come to him and they're like, "We want to do Willy Wonka. We want you to be him."
Yeah.
He's like, "Okay, on one condition. I need to walk out with a cane like I'm crippled. I want it to get stuck
Oh, okay.
in the
yeah.
brick and then I tumble." And the reason for that was From that point on, from the first time you see Willy Wonka, you never know if he's being genuine or not.
Oh.
You can never tell what's real and what's not. And they did a very similar thing here. The like whatever the first one was, when he was having the dinner with Jerry and talking about
Yes.
and it was in the future or whatever,
Yeah.
and it was clearly not real,
Yeah.
and it was overt about it.
Back
That
and
was
forth.
Scorsese telling you, don't trust anything else you see.
Okay.
And I just wanted to make those comparisons, and they were both box office flops, and then later on cult classics.
Well deserved.
Yes.
Cult classics. Yeah.
I do remember that about Willy Wonka. And now that you mention that and compare the two, I see it clearly.
I remember thinking like that's a very athletic move he just did. It seems I don't know if that fits.
I don't know if a cripple could do such things. He got himself up. Damn, he's
no,
he's
because
cured.
like it's very smooth. Anyway, moving on. So I think the torch is passed to Jonah for the next flick. What do you got for us?
So I was talking to my dad the other day. I talked to him for like 2 hours and 30 minutes and just all about everything. And he mentioned something about like how him and I could do a podcast, just of us talking about random shit. And I told him, well, at that point you could just be on our podcast because you watch movies just as much as we do.
Yeah.
He's like, well, you guys haven't watched the movie I recommended to you every single time I talk to you.
What
So
is it?
it's There Will Be Blood, Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Dano.
Oh.
I have been looking for an excuse to watch it again.
Okay.
Okay.
Like not like I need one,
Okay.
but I do want to watch it again. So
Oh man.
There are so many things in that. Yeah, that's a good one.
one of the
That's
greatest
it.
lines, in my opinion, is at the end. But we'll talk about it then.
That's gonna end up being like a 2-part podcast because we could talk a lot.
It's a 2.5 hour
About
movie.
There Will Be Blood. We talk a lot about it. All right. I guess that's it. We'll see you guys next time.
It's good.
There Will Be Blood.
Flick. Flick. Flick.